Performance webinar series presented by Maximum Acceleration, the professionals coaching company. We launched this series in October of 2012 with the intent of bringing together a community of learning for the mortgage and real estate professions, giving you guys the real nuggets and nuts and bolts you need to empower you to grow your business on a much faster learning curve. And so to that extent, the next installment of today's program is our guest speaker, Mr. John Formica, who is a gentleman I had the privilege and honor of meeting through a networking group and coaching program that I participate in and that I've been involved in for about the past year and a half as well. John's a very dynamic speaker. He has a great message and a wonderful wealth of information that he brings from an extensive professional career in the business world and hospitality industry. And the message that he's going to share with you today is, if Disney ran your business, what would it look like? The focus I've asked John to share with you today is, how do you create a magical and transformational customer experience? Often you'll hear me say that clients don't, we have a challenge in this industry of thinking sometimes that our clients buy us and that there's no way we could build a team that lives, or a business that lives beyond ourselves. The reality is that they don't buy us. They buy the experience that we have a reputation of creating. And so what I've asked John to share with you today is based on his 10 years of experience working for the Walt Disney Company and some of the record-breaking dynamic things that he did in hosting the luxury resort properties at Walt Disney World, and then through his experience of working with top companies across the nation since leaving Disney over the last 15 to 20 years. How do you purposefully and systematically create a magical customer experience? So I'm going to hand it over to John and let him take it away today.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, everyone, for listening today. I'm really honored for this incredible opportunity. So, as Eric said, my background is I spent over 25 years managing and supervising people in the service industries. I managed hotels, resort properties, assisted living communities throughout the United States, working for companies like Hyatt and Hilton, the Adams Mark Hotel chain, and Sunrise Assisted Living. But as Eric shared with you, I spent over 10 years managing and supervising people for Walt Disney World, managing their hotels and resort properties. And as most people say, it's a probably pretty fun job to do that. I usually joke with my audiences, and I tell people that some people think they have a rat for a boss. How would you like to work for a mouse? And I did that for 10 years, but I got to tell you, it was an incredible experience, because if you've ever been to Disney World, you realize that the expectations are extremely high day in and day out. And when most people are not familiar with the Disney organization, there are over 60,000 employees that work at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida alone. It's basically the largest single one-location employer in the United States. And as I travel around the globe, speaking and consulting, doing training and working with tourism communities, working with business consulting organizations, working with healthcare, financial, mortgage, real estate, it doesn't make a difference. People want to know how Disney does it. How do they get 60,000 people to come to work every day smiling and eager to serve us as we go there? And yet in our own businesses, we struggle. We can't get people to show up to work on time or answer the phones correctly, or all these challenges. So if I can, Eric, I'll just give you a secret right up, and we can just spend the rest of the morning having a good time, or afternoon. And people think the secret is nothing more than pixie dust. And boy, we all wish it was pixie dust. But I got to tell you, it's not pixie dust. It's an incredible success model that Disney has in place that continues to work day in and day out. And what I love to do is I utilize my 10 years of Disney's experience in utilizing that model to help businesses just like yours in any business, that if you could use Disney strategies, if you could understand how Disney creates that emotional connection with their customers, it will help you create what I call that loyalty, the stickiness, so you can keep the customers you have, as well as the customers that you have continue to refer others over and over in your business. And particularly most of all of you in your type of business, who wouldn't want referrals, who wouldn't want people telling others about our wonderful business? So I'm going to basically be sharing this Disney success model. Short period of time that I have, I'm not going to share the entire model, but I'm going to share with you some really key things that I think will help you. Because, as Erik said, it's not about service. It's all about the customer experience. And to ask you this question, I want to ask you, if Disney ran your business, what would it look like? And I know all of us would sit there and say, wow, that would be pretty cool. And yes, it would be pretty cool if we had Disney characters floating around our offices. But that's not what I'm sharing with you. If you could utilize Disney's success model, and they would run your business, what would it look like? We all know that it would run a little different than it does today. And so what I want to do in this great opportunity is to share with you what your business would look like if you could build that culture so that you would do the same things Disney does to create that loyalty, to create that stickiness in your business. So you'll have an incredible word of mouth. You'll have people referring the business, but more importantly, you'll keep the customers that you have. And that's valuably important that I'll be sharing with you throughout this webinar. So always, again, just keep in your mind, if Disney ran your business, what would it look like? And it's kind of, when I worked for Disney, I was very fortunate to join Disney back in the 80s when Disney started to build all these new hotels. Michael Eisner was the CEO at the time, and he decided that he wanted to create a resort destination. And so I was very fortunate because it was the first time since they opened up Epcot in Orlando, Florida, that they didn't have enough managers internally to fulfill those positions. So I was asked to join the Disney organization, and I got to tell you, it was a dream come true. But more importantly, I became a sponge and learned everything I could about that Disney success model. And what I find is that I can help businesses utilize Disney success model in any business to create that Disney-like culture, because it's not about service, it's all about that customer experience. So let me tell you a little bit, who is this ex-Disney guy? And as Erik said, there's a few things that he shared, and I'll share a few things with you. But, you know, I always had a dream of working with Disney. And Disney is one of those companies that, you know, has a great reputation, not only for dealing with customers, but also internally working with Disney World. And like I said, I became a sponge, and it was really funny because I had some colleagues of mine from the Marriott Corporation, from the Hilton Corporation, and they thought they were going to convert Disney into being the next Marriott, the next Hilton. And I didn't think we needed to do that at Disney. I thought Disney did a great, incredible job with their parks, theme parks. All we needed to do was to transform that magic and that experience that you get when you go to the parks into the resorts. And when I was there, like I said, we had 4 hotels and a campground, and we had expanded to almost 20 hotels in the campground in that period of time. So the whole goal is to create an experience to not only fill those hotels, but get people to want to just come to Disney World and stay in those hotels, obviously competing with other hotels throughout the Orlando area. So it was always a dream of mine to work for Walt Disney World, and I had that wonderful opportunity. Now, you see in this funny picture here, this is a young John Formica, and I do say young back then, but I'm sitting in a unique seat right now, and that is hard to tell from the picture, but while I was a manager there, one of my employees was won the Hotel Employee of the Year for the entire state of Florida. And we got to go to Tallahassee, Florida for this presentation, and my senior executive vice president of resorts thought it would be pretty neat for this particular employee because no one from the resort division had ever won that award. And we got the opportunity, instead of driving 4.5 hours to Tallahassee, Florida, we had the privilege of flying in Air Force One. Now that's Air Force with an EAR, Force One, and you got it. It was Walt Disney's personal jet we had the opportunity to fly, and I'm sitting in the seat. The plane was just like a normal plane, except it had one seat just like that, and that was the seat that Walt himself sat in and did lots of creative things, drawings, all the things that he came up with. There were a lot of things that took place on that table. So I thought if I sat in that chair, that might make me a little bit more wiser, but I'm not so sure it worked. But it was definitely an honor and a privilege to be in there. So I was very fortunate to do that. And then obviously in the course of time, 25 years in the service industry, 10 years at Walt Disney World. Right now I'm a speaker, presenter, business consultant, over 2,500 keynotes. I work with a lot of tourism communities and service industries. Obviously a business consultant, a top-selling author. So do a lot of things, but I tell you what I really love to do is I love to help businesses and organizations transform whatever service level they're at into a Disney-like experience, because it's all about experience. So let's talk a little bit about, let's get rolling here. Let's see what we can talk about. What I'm going to talk about is how to create that Disney-like culture in your business. And so there's a couple of things I'm going to share with you today. First, we're going to talk about is how to create the dream. In other words, how to make the promise. And one of the things that Disney does really, really well is they create an emotional connection to their customers, and they create an emotional connection to their staff and people. And basically what you do is you get the heart in it. And we all know that when someone's heart is in it, you're more likely to be engaged, you're more likely to be more involved. If you're an employee, you're actually more involved in the process. If you're a customer, you're more engaged and involved in continuing to do business. So that's basically how they transform service into that customer experience. So we're going to talk about how to create the dream, how to make that promise statement. We're also going to talk about the mindset of your customers, how to understand what your customers really want, not what we think they need. And it's really important because the customers are our customers for a reason. And we need to figure out why they want to be our customer and why we need to, as a business, we need to continue to tap into them and give them what they want, not what they need. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then obviously the magic begins with people. All businesses, somehow, whether you are a solopreneur or you have 40, 50 employees, your customers are going to remember people over product and service. And Disney takes a lot of investment in their people because you have to make sure you have the right one. So we'll talk a little bit about that magic experience and how to get the right people from that standpoint and how that would work. Okay? I want to go through a couple of myths because most businesses out there, they don't get this customer experience over customer service. I want to share a couple of myths with you. And one myth is, if I can provide a product or service that people need, I will be successful in business. And it is a myth. Now, I get it from the standpoint of it might prepare you to open up a business. If I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and if in my little town outside of Charlotte, if there are no florists, someone might say, well, gee, we need a florist. If there aren't a good Chinese restaurant close by and we have to travel far distance, we might say, gosh, let's open up a Chinese restaurant because people need Chinese restaurants, or people need florists, or people need dry cleaning places. Well, it might be a good reason to start thinking about opening up a business, but if you have a product or service that people need, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful in business, and that is because other people can get that need someplace else, whether it's online, whether it's the convenience of coming home from work, whatever it might be. So I'm going to prove to you that it isn't necessarily true that if you can provide that product or service that people need, you'll be successful. I'm going to prove why that is a myth. And the second one is, if I can provide a better service, or maybe provide additional services in my business, than my competition, I will be successful in business. And again, this is also a myth because it's not service, and it's not necessarily additional services that's going to separate you from everyone else. It's going to be the experience. It's more about the experience than anything else. I work in a lot of tourism communities throughout the country, and particularly here in North Carolina, this time of year, they're all revving up because of the summer season coming up. And they think that if they can provide more amenities at their beach locations, that more tourists will be attracted to those beaches. And what I've proven to them is that it's not about the beach. It's about the experience you give me when I'm at the beach. And so we have to understand as businesses, yes, they are going to utilize our services, and of course we need to provide a good service. But a lot of times we spend so much time adding new things, new services, thinking that if we have this new bells and whistle, if we add this special thing, that we will get more customers. And the challenge you're going to have is that the customers that you have are already there. You need to take good care of the ones you have by giving them an experience, not just provide a service. And I will show that to you today in this webinar.
Yeah, John, let me jump in here a second, if you don't mind. One of the things I want to take to the mortgage and real estate professionals listening in the audience, that the previous concept or idea of what John was sharing with that myth too is, at the end of the day, and you've heard me talk about this many, many times on webinars of this series, is that we've got to stop thinking about the vendor on one transaction and start thinking about how our relationship with our clients is working with them as an advisor on multiple future opportunities when it comes to their housing needs. And so one of the things that you really want to think about is at the end of the day, if everybody else is pitching great service, the whole cliche of world-class customer service that nobody believes because they've all heard it and been denied it kind of thing, do you want to associate yourself with all the other jerks and bozos out there, or do you really want to truly create a transformational opportunity for your clients? So as John is sharing some of these concepts or ideas with you, I want you to be thinking about how you can adjust and transform that relationship from one of where your customer sees you as a service provider on a single transaction, and start thinking about how you can help them see you as a long-term asset and advisor on multiple future opportunities or transactions when it comes to their housing needs. Which is a key transformational shift that is the difference between a magical customer experience and a single transaction service, if that makes sense. John?
That's great, Eric. That's absolutely right. And when you're looking at, again, just because I'm providing better service, it's very task-related. And I have no doubt you all do a great job in your businesses by serving your customers, by providing all the different sort of amenities, all the different bells and whistles, the tools, application, all the things that you can do to make sort of that experience better or easier. Nothing wrong with that. That is great. But as Eric said, it's all about the relationships, because I can go to Yellow Pages, I can go online. There are hundreds of different businesses just like yours. What's going to separate yours from everyone else? And experience creates memories, and experience creates opportunity to be remembered, and that's what you're trying to do in your business, so that people keep you as a top-of-mind awareness, that they want to continue to do business with you, enjoy doing business with you, and, of course, refer others to your business. So thank you very much, Eric. That was great. And, again, we're not talking about this only happens in theme parks in the Disney World. This happens in any business whatsoever. So, as Eric said, just find a couple of those things and how you can apply those sort of things in your business to separate yourself from just being task-related. And the third myth is that if I get involved in social media, I will be successful in business. And this is not a knock on social media. I'm on social media. We all need to be on social media. But I want to share a statistic with you, in that there's 3.3 billion conversations about brands take place every single day. 3.8 billion conversations take place about brands. Well, here's an interesting statistic. 3.1 billion of these are happening offline. That's right. They're not being talked about through social media, through Facebook, through everything else. They're being talked about by your neighbors, by each other at the water cooler business. They're talking about at work. They're talking about each other, family members. That's where the word of mouth becomes valuably important. And if you're just average like everybody else, you give them no reason to talk about you. And so you want to make sure you separate yourself and give them more of an experience, something that can be memorable rather than just performing tasks. All right, so let's talk about creating this dream. And the question I'm going to ask you is, in your business, are you selling imagination? You're saying, well, what is imagination? Well, we all know that Disney's about fantasy and magic. And the common definition of fantasy is imagination. And of course, when we go to Disney, we're imagining we're at Fantasyland or Tomorrowland or, all this sort of things. But the reality is, you as a business, you need to sell imagination as well. And I find that in the businesses that I coach, most people get caught up in the day-to-day details of their operation, their products and services that they sell. And I know that's important. But then what happens is you settle on just providing the basics that relate to those products or services, and you lose the opportunity to sell imagination or to sell magic. And again, what I share people, what I love to do is I love to rediscover the imagination in customers by creating or reinventing or even strengthening the customer experience, because that will attract more customers, and they're all then will be eager to come knocking on your door, and more importantly, to pay premium prices for that promise. So you as a business, you want to sell imagination. Let me give you a couple of examples. When I worked in an assisted living communities, okay, what am I selling? Well, most people think I'm selling dining, I'm selling care, health care, I'm selling the opportunity to have activities and recreational activities for whoever is in that assisted living. But in reality, the imagination that I'm selling is what's called peace of mind. If I have my loved one in that assisted living community, what I'm hoping they sell me is the peace of mind that I could sleep at night, and my sisters and everybody in my family could sleep at night because we know that mom and dad is taken care of. If it's a restaurant, you think you're selling food, right, or dining or those sort of things. But really what you're selling is an imagination of having a romantic night out with your spouse or a loved one, or maybe a family dining together, or maybe during a Sunday football game where you're watching your team win and all the excitement of being around other people watching a game. That's the imagination that you're selling. And so in your business, in the mortgage business, and what you're selling is, in a way, a peace of mind that I don't have to worry about this, that everything is being taken care of, and that I have, have everything in my best interest. That's what you're selling, and that's called imagination, and that's what Disney does. Disney sells that imagination that creates that emotional connection in our business. And so, what is Disney's promise message? How does Disney engage the hearts of their customers? Well, if you want to know Disney's promise message, it's really simple. They make people happy. They make people happy, and they've been doing it forever. In fact, Walt Disney himself said, I want to create the happiest place on earth and fill it with happy people. And I can say, if I was able to see each and every one of you in my audience, if I were to ask you to raise your hand if you went to Disney World and you were happy when you went there, most of you are going to raise your hand. What it tells me is that Disney is following through with the promise message. Now, some people think the promise message is to make money or to provide great service. Yes, that's an outcome of their promise message. So each one of you in your business, you need to come up with a way to engage the hearts of your customers by creating a promise message that has more meaning. Like I said, if it's an assisted living or even in your profession, are you selling a peace of mind? Can my wife and I feel at ease knowing that you are handling everything with our mortgage or with our house or whatever it might be? That's the peace of mind. And when I have that peace of mind, I don't worry about anything. It's not necessarily the details of how you do that. All I want to know is the emotional connection of being taken care of. And so that's the number one key. And that's how Disney makes people happy. And everything Disney does is around making people happy. So much so is that their promise statement is more important than anybody's job. I'm going to give you a good example. I had a conversation with the CEO of a company, and I asked him what his promise statement was. And he told me his promise statement was, customer service is our #1 priority. And I went back to him and I said, really? Then why was I on hold for 20 minutes? Well, it might have been somebody's priority, but it wasn't. It might have been his priority, but it wasn't everybody in that organization's priority. So much so that I was on hold for 20 minutes, which obviously wasn't a good experience. So it isn't some catchy phrase that you're going to put on your slogan or put on a website or put on a marketing brochure. This is your promise statement that, believe it or not, can never, ever be achieved. It's just ongoing. You think about Disney. Your promise message is to make people happy. It's a lifetime of doing that, because you might go there one time, the next time you go, Disney has to make you happy again. Or every day there are millions of new people that get exposed to one of the Disney parks. Every single one of those, Disney has to make happy. So it's an ongoing promise message that you're just trying to do over and over and over again. So you want to find something that's a promise message. It could be anything, like I said, a dentist might promise message to look like a movie star. Wherever it might be, it's not about getting your teeth clean. It's about looking like a movie star. That's your promise message. Okay? So the next thing we really have to do is, how do you understand the mindset of your customers? And so I'm going to ask you this question to think about this right now while you're listening to this. Who is your competition? Now, most of you will be thinking about other mortgage firms or other people in, whether they can do it online or through the internet, or the company down the street that is your competition that you battle day in and day out. Most of you think that's your competition, and you're right. It absolutely is your competition in your industry. But what if I told you that your competition is anybody who your customers compare you with now becomes your competition, and it may not even be in your same industry? Let me give you an example. If I am going to call one of your businesses, okay, if I were to pick up the phone and I call your office, somebody's going to answer that phone, hopefully. Whoever answers that phone, I'm going to compare that person who answered the phone with any other person who's ever answered the phone in my entire life. And I'm judging whether whoever answered that phone was receptive, was helpful, was energetic, enjoyed the fact that I called, or were they the opposite of all those? I'm going to compare you. And I will tell you, I always compare phone calls to my insurance agency secretary, because she answers the phone incredibly well. She's amazing. And so I always say, how come those companies don't have somebody like her answering the phone? See, I'm comparing other phone messages, not necessarily phone conversations in your specific industry. It could be at a bank. It could be at a grocery store. It could be anywhere. So your competition could be Disney World. Disney World could be your competition. But you could also be Disney's competition, because if I were to call your place and get an incredible receptionist, or somebody answers the phone in a warm, welcoming, friendly manner, and I were to call someplace at Disney and that person is not as friendly, I'm going to say, wow, Disney needs to have somebody like your business answering that phone. So it's all about your competition is not. It's kind of like healthcare. Your competition isn't other hospitals. Your competition is who's taking care of mom or dad or my brother or sister. That's my competition. Do you really care? Other businesses care. How come you don't care? So think about who that competition really is. Okay? And when you understand the mindset of your customers, you have to understand what are their needs and wants. Right? Walt Disney had said himself, you don't build a product for yourself. You need to know what the people want, and you build it for them. And one of the things that I'm going to do in our 3-part series is I'm going to help you understand what your customers really want. I've done enough research. I know what your customers really want. The key is I hope you know what they really want, not what they need. You see, most businesses focus on needs. They need a product or service. They need information. They need advice. They need someone to handle their mortgage legal information. They need people or an organization like yours to do the processing of that paperwork. Whatever it is, that's true. I need you. I don't go to a bakery to get a mortgage. I go to you so you can satisfy those needs. But more importantly, if you want to create an experience, you have to focus on what I want. And there are lots of different things that our customers want. Let me give you an example. If you've all been to a Starbucks, it's not about coffee. See, we all need coffee, so you might say, go to Starbucks. Well, if I just needed coffee, could I not go at home and make coffee at home? Could I not go to McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or the local gas station and get coffee if I just needed coffee? But you and I and others, millions of others, continue to go to Starbucks. Not because we need coffee, it's because the experience we get when we go inside a Starbucks. Because Starbucks knows what we want. We want a community. We want to feel like we belong to something. We want to have a romance with our local coffee shop. There's a coffee shop that's about a quarter of a mile from my house. I call it my Starbucks. That's right, it's my personal Starbucks. Now, of course, it's not my personal Starbucks, but I tell people it is because of the experience they give me when I go there. Are there other Starbucks I can go to? Absolutely. But I go to that Starbucks because they give me what I want, not just coffee. I can get that anywhere. And that's what you have to as a business, you have to understand what your customers want. Okay? One of the things that I like to do is I do what's called a customer experience makeover evaluations. Most people think they're shopper reports, but I don't do shopper reports. I evaluate the customer experience because I try to put myself in the shoes of a customer, not just during a transaction, but what is it that I want as a customer, and do you as a business fulfill those wants? And the wants are the emotional. And in the three-part series that we'll be talking about later on, I will give you a detailed step-by-step procedure on how to get to your customers' wants. Because the fastest way you can go to get to their wants, you will instantly connect emotionally to them, and that's where you will create that stickiness. And those things are vitally important. So you want to make sure that you understand that it's not about needs. They know they need a mortgage. They know they need your business to help them process that paperwork. But what is it that they want? And as Erik said, they want a relationship. They want to feel valued. They want to feel special. They want to feel understood. They might want to feel empathy, where you understand the frustrations that I'm having, or understand the fact that I'm confused and I don't understand all that paperwork and all that legal jargon that goes on. Do you really know that? Or do you care about my wants? Those are the valuable things, as Erik said, are going to transform from an experience into, from service into that experience, and you're going to want to be able to do that. And the other thing that I want to share with you is that the magic begins with people. And Walt said himself, you can design, create, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. And it is so true. Customers will not remember your product. They're not mortgages and all that stuff. They don't want to remember that, but what they want to be able to remember is their agent or the person who services them. That's you. You know, I get to speak to audiences all over the world. I just got back a couple of weeks ago from Australia and the Dominican Republic. And there are millions of people around the world that go to Disney World or Disneyland. And I often ask my audiences, what did you like most about your experience at Disney? Now think about this. Disney spends millions and millions and millions of dollars on new rides, attractions, theme parks, hotels. But yet when I ask the audience that question, I would have to tell you that 99% of the people tell me about a person who affected their stay or in the parks or whatever it was that made it an incredible experience. And yet Disney spends millions of dollars on a brick and mortar, but we talk about people. So the question I'm going to ask you are your customers and your clients talking about your staff, about you, about your business that way, or do they just focus on the tasks that you're doing? So again, those are the things that are valuably important. And how do you do that? The magic begins with people, because you have to make sure you get the right people. This is one of my favorite quotes from Jim Collins, who wrote the book Good to Great. And with Jim Collins in this book, and I highly encourage everyone to read this book, but in the nutshell, Jim Collins researched some of the best companies in the world, and he tried to figure out how some of them separated themselves from being good to being great. And Disney was one of those businesses. And what he found is that there's three things for any business to take themselves from good to great. One is you need to get the right people on the bus. That obviously is hiring the right people, getting the right people in your business, in your organization. You have to get the wrong people off the bus. In other words, I'm not saying throw them out into the street, but there are people in our businesses that may not be the right people. And then lastly, we need to make sure we get the right people on the bus in the right seats. And that's the part that Disney does incredibly well. They focus on getting the right people in the right seats. Disney calls it, they hire people to fill roles, not positions. And in the three-part series, I'm going to really help focus on you getting and helping place the right people on the bus, on your business. Because if you have the wrong people, that's like taking a quiet, introverted person, and they're the ones that are answering the phones. Now, most of the time, we hire these people because they're nice people. And we think that they're going to transform that niceness into an incredible experience. Doesn't always work out that way. And what happens is we get people that maybe 6 months later we say that person's the wrong fit, or you try taking a square peg and you're trying to shove it in a round hole thinking that you're going to change people. So I'm going to give you some gold nuggets that you'll be able to know how you can, one, get the right people, but two, make sure you can get people in the right role. And I'll give you a perfect example. This is obviously me and Jason Alexander, a.k.a. George Costanza. If anybody's a Seinfeld fan out there, you know how funny George Costanza is in that show. He's one of my favorite characters. I had the opportunity to meet with him and speak with him, and I actually talk a lot about him in my books and in my seminars because Jason Alexander is an incredible actor. He's won all kinds of awards, not only on Broadway, singing and dancing in a musical, Academy Awards for a supporting actor in the movie Pretty Woman, but 8 times he was nominated for an Emmy in Seinfeld for supporting actor in a comedy role. Right now he's doing all kinds of international things. So if you look at him, you must say he's an incredible actor, and he is. I know he's an incredible actor. But if I ask you this question, could George Costanza, a.k.a. Jason Alexander, could he play the part of James Bond? And the answer that all of you are saying, no, there's no way. Just ask my wife. My wife, you know, she has no desire to see Jason Alexander come out of the ocean with his shirt off, but she'll stare at the new James Bond all day. The real point I'm telling you is that Jason Alexander is a great actor, but he cannot play every role. You in your businesses, you have nice people working in your business. I might even tell you, you might be a nice person in your business, but you might be in the wrong role. So you need to make sure you find the right people in that right role. And that's a big secret, because what we try to do is we try to take George Costanza's and we try to convert them into James Bond, and it never works. So those are the 3 things. And again, you need to create that dream. You need to create that emotional statement that you are going to fulfill with your business to create that promise statement for your customers. You need to understand the mindset of your customers. You need to give them what they want, not what they need. Of course, we have to give them what they need too, but we need to focus on what they want. And the third thing is, if you don't have magical people in your business, you don't have the right people in your business, you're going to have a difficult time creating those personal customer experiences, and you're going to fall back and just continue to do task-related customer service. and that will make you average like everybody else. And we want to make you different than everybody else. We want to make you the business in your industry. Does that make sense? Erik, any questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, folks, go ahead, and we're about to the Q&A section. There's one question that came through that I was going to have John address here really quickly as we get started. Also, by the way, make sure you guys hang around to the end of the program. John's got some special treats for you coming up at the very end of the program that you want to make sure you get access to. I'll tell you that, part of the reason that I asked John to speak with you is, guys, like I said, John does a lot of coaching with mega corporations and with major organizations, hundreds, if not thousands, of tens of thousands of employees that John's had the opportunity to work with. So in an industry where we tend to be focused on the individual needs of the frontline originator, and many of you on this call are, essentially, one-man islands, right? You're independent operators, and you're running, your basic day-to-day thinking about your job and your role within that larger organization. But one of the things that I wanted to inspire you, and one of the reasons that I asked John to share some of the concepts or ideas is if you ever want to grow beyond the 4 or 5 loan a month mark or the 4 or 5 real estate deals a month mark, one of the things that you've got to begin to shift your thinking towards is how do you build a effective and successful mortgage practice, kind of a business within a business, and the people that you bring onto your team. And one of the things that we spend a lot of time, energy, and effort on with our one-on-one coaching clients or in some of the smaller group programs that we do at Maximum Acceleration is getting loan officers to think of their role a little bit differently and how to help them build their practice from that company mindset level. So some of the key things that I want to reinforce here that John shared with you is, first of all, what is the customer promise? What is the experience that you're creating or setting the expectation of at the beginning? And the second thing is, creating that customer service. So one of the questions that came through, and John, is, one of the biggest difficulties we all have in the mortgage industry is sometimes bad stuff happens that nobody could have expected or predicted. Just things go wrong. An appraiser decides they want to be obnoxious or a pain in the neck, and they give us a low value appraisal even though there's plenty of comparable information out there to support a higher value. Or a customer drags their feet with getting us the documentation that we need to be able to close a loan on time, and they just, no matter how hard we try to get the right information in the right time to be able to meet the closing deadline and expectations of the pressure of the deal, if the client doesn't do their part, we can't do our part kind of concept, and yet they're always mad at us about it because supposedly it's our fault because we didn't close on time. And that is magnified by the fact that we have realtors involved in the deals in a lot of cases that don't necessarily understand the dynamic of some of the nuances of what it really takes to get a loan done. So when bad stuff happens, how do you create a magical experience for the upset customer? Would you mind sharing that concept or idea? And I know I'm kind of throwing this at you a little bit off the cuff here. But
no problem. Erik, that's a great question because, you know what? Things even go wrong at Disney. I mean, things happen. I mean, things break down, human error, things like that happen. There's two keys. First of all, at Disney, if you ever go to Disney, you actually want to hope that something goes wrong. And that sounds crazy, but because Disney goes overboard to not only fix it and correct it, but they will go overboard to do two things. And these are two things that you need to write down. Whenever things go wrong, there's two things that as a customer, this is what I want. I need you to fix the problem, got that, but there's two things I want. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to empathize and put yourself in my shoes. That's what you need to do. And you do that by feeling empathy. Doesn't mean you feel sorry for them, but you put yourself in the shoes. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I can see how frustrated that is. Mr. Smith, I can understand how confusing that might be to you. And Mrs. Jones, I understand how busy you are so that paperwork wasn't completed on time. I understand that. So you have to empathize with them. And the second thing you need to do is show that you care. Most businesses fix the problem, which is good. I want you to fix the problem, and I want you to fix it right away. but you miss out on the boat to show that you care about the score, about caring about making it right, about caring about them remaining as your customer. And a lot of businesses don't show that they care. I like even using the words care. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I really care about, I feel bad that that was a mistake or that happened. And just to show you that I really care, here's what I'm going to do for you. And I will even use those words so that people will realize that I do care. And it's not just about the transaction. It isn't about me getting my commission. It's about you and the relationship that I want to have with you, my client. That has to be the most important thing that I have to show as a business, as a professional, that I empathize and I really care. Because when you care, people are more forgiving. If you care, people are more likely to say it's okay. But when you don't care, oh my goodness, I'm upset. And Disney goes overboard in showing that they care, that you love when things go wrong, because they will take it to the next level about caring. And so those are the things that you can do in your business as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, guys, think about it from this perspective. I mean, compare your best customer service experiences to your worst customer service experiences, and when did you feel like you were taken care of, and when did you feel like you were mistreated, and maybe even, you know, the companies that you vowed that you'll never do business with again. And you know, in this industry, you know, sometimes it's easy to get trapped into more of a transactional-based thinking, one deal at a time. You know, that customer is not going to need to buy or refinance a home for another 5 to 7 years. But how damaging is poor customer service to your reputation? I mean, you know, think about it. You know, last time you ate at a great restaurant, how many people did you tell? If you felt like you had, you know, fabulous service at that restaurant, how many people did you tell? 3 or 4, right? The people that you know, oh man, that, you know, somebody asked you at work the next day, how was, you know, how was your day yesterday, or, you know, what was last night? What's up? Oh man, my wife and I went to this fabulous restaurant. We had amazing service. But 2 or 3 days later, how many people are you talking to about that restaurant? Unless somebody asks you specifically. But, you know, vice versa. You go to a restaurant where you get mistreated and the waitress is rude, or the food was delivered, you know, poorly, and you know, you mentioned it to the manager and he didn't even really seem to give a crap. And you know, how many people did you tell? I mean, I remember personally having an experience like that with a local restaurant. I've never been to that restaurant again, and this was 5 years ago. I've probably told several hundred people over the course of the years, oh yeah, you really don't want to go there. It's way overpriced. Their service is horrible, and to be honest, it's way overrated. Fortunately, I don't have to say that anymore, because now the business is out of that restaurant's out of business. But you get what I mean, guys? I mean, it's, you know, our customers that we don't take care of and that we don't treat properly, and we don't let them know that we understand and that we empathize with them and that we show them that we care and that we're doing everything in our power to resolve their situation. How many people are they likely to go out and tell about us and our poor service? I mean, you know, how quickly does that reputation spread? It can go viral pretty quick, especially in today's environment with all the technology and everything like that. Guys, you know, keep posting some additional questions. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and jump forward through a couple of things that I wanted to share with all of you just before we leave. Keep posting those questions, guys, and of course, if you know, if we run out of time today to address all the questions, my team or the rest of the coaches here at Max Acceleration or John will make sure we get back to answering those questions for you. You've heard John mention a couple of times this 3-part web shop series. As you guys are now familiar with, one of the things that we started doing at Maximum Acceleration about 3 years ago is we started taking some of the key ideas, concepts, or needs that our clients have and want, and packaging them in smaller, more scalable, more accessible programming options. So one of the things that John has agreed to do for us graciously, and you know, keeping in mind that John typically will charge a company on a daily consulting or coaching rate to come in and do a workshop with their team anywhere between $5,000 and $75,000, between $5,000 and $7,500 for a one-day workshop. So, John, through my prompting and maybe some arm twisting along the way, has agreed to do a very, very special program for you guys about walking you through step-by-step how to build a magical customer experience. So he's going to go really deep, and I'll be there with him guiding, through how to build a step-by-step magical customer experience in this web shop environment. So this will be a program that will start on Monday the 28th at 2 o'clock Central Time. It will be a 3-part series that will repeat at the same time, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Mountain, or noon Pacific. And I know we have got people on this program today from all different time zones, so just keep that in mind. April 28th at 2 o'clock Central, do the time conversion. John has offered to start a 3-part web shop series for us where we're going to be walking you through step-by-step how to build a magical customer experience. We're titling the program Secrets to Creating a Disney-like Culture and Empire in Any Business. It is a 3-part interactive web shop. Now, regularly our web shop programs will go for anywhere between $497 and $697, depending on the cost and involvement of them. But John, we've worked out a special deal with him where if you go ahead and get registered by Monday the 21st, if you go ahead and put your enrollment in, you can go directly to our website, mxlcoach.com/magic, or under the Live Events tab, you'll find it there as well. You go to mxlcoach.com/magic, and as long as you go ahead and finish your registration by April 21st, you can get it for only $297. I mean, literally less than $100 a session for a step-by-step walkthrough of how to build a magical customer experience, how to create your promise statement, how to engage and connect with your clients throughout the transaction and handle objections and difficult challenges, and how to hire the right team to facilitate that system and help you grow beyond your personal practice. For as little as $300, you can get involved in that program and be able to have the blueprint to building a magical customer experience. Beyond that, there's one last thing I wanted to share with you guys right before we wrap up and tell you a little bit about some implementation things that I want you to work on. Is, many of you have been thinking about what is Maximum Acceleration, what is this whole one-on-one coaching program, what does it do, and how can it help you grow your business? Well, it's a little hard to explain in a condensed format. So one of the best ways we've found to help you experience the potential value of coaching is to actually let you experience it. So one of the things that we offer is what we call a strategy session. Of course, there's no cost or obligation for the session. You'll go one-on-one with a coach helping you work through an action plan to solve your biggest specific challenge in your business. As we go through that plan in that conversation, you walk away with an action plan you can implement immediately that will help you resolve that biggest challenge or issue, and along the way you'll find out a little bit more about when and if coaching makes sense for you to move forward with on a one-on-one environment. If you're interested in taking advantage of that strategy session opportunity, again, there's only a handful of seats available each week. Our coaching staff is pretty close to capacity at this point, but there are a couple of sessions a week available if you're interested. They're filled on a first-come, first-served basis, but as long as you go ahead and request that, either you can type in the best phone number and email address directly into the Q&A platform of this panel of this webinar platform, and we'll get you scheduled. Remember that we do need to, our team needs to be able to contact you to coordinate scheduling with which coach and what time and date makes sense for you to get that appointment scheduled. So if you're interested in one of those strategy sessions, go ahead and post that in the Q&A now, and that will alert our operations and customer service team that you are ready to take advantage of that strategy session offer. Either that, or you can go to the website directly, especially for those of you listening on recording. If you'd like to take advantage of one of those strategy sessions, you can go to that mxlcoach.com/strategy website. All right, keep posting those questions, guys. There's a number of great questions that have come through. If we have a little bit of time at the end here, maybe John and I can get a couple of those knocked out for you or answer a couple of those questions for you as well. There's one last thing. Before you leave this webinar, ideas without action are useless. I don't care how powerful a concept is, if you don't do something with it, can it have any value in your business? And the obvious answer is no. So before you pick up that next phone call, or before you take that next email and respond to it, take 30 seconds to a minute to do some action planning. You've invested an hour of your time in getting this great information that John's shared with you. So now I want you to take something and do something with the ideas that you've captured today. The first thing I want you to do is decide what was the one most valuable thing you heard in this program. You'll have the recording, and just so you know, there were some questions that came through about, is this recorded? Can you have a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, within 24 to 48 hours, our team will be rendering the video and reformatting it so that it can be streamed through our YouTube channel. Once that is posted and available for your viewing, you'll receive an email as somebody who's registered for today's program. Automatically, you'll receive a copy of the link of the recording from today's program within 24 to 48 hours. It does take a little bit of time behind the scenes to get that done for you. But the key action thing here is decide what was the one most valuable thing you heard in today's program. Secondly is you need to decide what action you need to take to make that idea a part of your daily business. So thinking about your promise statement and thinking about, do you need to refine your promise statement to communicate the value that you seek to provide a customer beyond one single loan transaction? For example, a promise statement, something along the lines of, our commitment to helping customers make smart mortgage choices that impact their ability to achieve other financial goals beyond acquiring a home. That kind of a thing. So decide what is the next action that you need to take to make this one idea part of your business on a daily basis. Third is you need to decide by when will you have that action implemented. Set a specific deadline to hold yourself accountable. And the fourth key element of implementation is decide who is going to be your accountability partner. In 1993, Brigham Young University did a research study on what it took to take ideas into action, and they realized through that research study there were three key elements. One is you needed to have a specific goal and action plan to complete that goal. Two is you needed to have a deadline, a target date for completion that you would focus on creating a commitment to completion by a specific date and time. Third is you needed to tell somebody about your action plan and your target date for completion and ask them to follow through and follow up with you on completion by that target date. If you did those three things, you had a 95% chance of completing that idea or implementing that strategy in your business if you did all three of those things. So decide who it is that's going to hold you accountable, because at the end of the day, it's so easy to break the promises we make to ourselves, but how difficult is it to break the promises that we make to somebody else outside ourselves, somebody that we trust and respect, that has knowledge and authority and information that's valuable to our growth, and that we ask to support us in that role. So if you don't have a great accountability partner, if you don't have a mentor or somebody that's knowledgeable or incredible in your industry that has the time and commitment to and cares as much about your own success, if not more so than you do, and you'd like to find out more information about how Maximum Acceleration can support you in that process, make sure you go to mxlcoach.com and request that strategy session. The last thing that I want to do is I just want to remind you guys, you have a unique opportunity here to take advantage of a rare opportunity to get some hands-on coaching and guidance in a small group environment, web shop. It'll be a live interactive three-part series where John and I will walk you through step by step how to build a magical customer experience for your customers for only $297 investment, one-time, single, no long-term commitment. If you go ahead and register by Monday the 21st, you'll be able to take advantage of that for only $297. You can find out more information, which will link you directly to the registration page if you go ahead and go to mxlcoach.com/magic to go ahead and register for that. Otherwise, folks, go ahead and keep posting some of those great questions. John, give me a second if you wouldn't mind. John, if there's one last thing you'd like to share with the audience today, why don't you go ahead and kind of if there's any major thing that you'd like to close out with today, and while I scrub through some of the Q&A stuff and see if there's any additional questions we want to try and address here and get on recording before we close out today's program.
Great. Again, Eric, thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope people picked up a couple of things. Again, don't try to do everything. Just try to pick up one or two ideas that you learned and how you can apply. But the secret is, and kind of what Erik was talking about, having a goal and target dates and all this, creating an experience for your customers is nothing more than a choice. It's not rocket science. It's not, you don't need 100 years of experience to do that. You can do it if you just choose and create a staff environment that chooses to do it. Because if you do, it becomes a way of life. It becomes part of your business culture. That's what's going to separate your business from everyone else. It's kind of interesting. I turn down hundreds of opportunities every year because people want me to do a customer service workshop. And I don't do customer service workshops. I'm not saying customer service isn't totally important, but customer service will make you average. Customer service will just make you just like everybody else. What I want you to do is I want you to create experiences. I want you to create things emotionally that you can connect to your business so that your clients know that you really care about them. And when you can build those relationships, I'm going to tell you, you won't have to worry about marketing anymore. You're going to have abundance of referrals coming your way. And as Erik said, not only for this one transaction, but continuing transactions in the future because they feel like they want to do business with you, not necessarily your mortgage or your company. And so those are the things that just try to focus. And it's nothing more than a choice, but it's building that culture. And that's what we're going to do in this workshop series. We're going to help you create a culture so that it becomes just second norm. You'll be able to do it. It won't be just a flavor of the month. This will be how you can devise a culture to separate yourself from everyone else. And that's how much does that work to you? What is a loyal customer worth to you over a lifetime? And think about it. It costs so much less to maintain the customers that you have than it is to go out and market and try to find new ones. So all these things are going to save money and put money in your pocket if you can do that. And I look forward to working with you and rolling up my sleeves and helping you each and every one.
Awesome, awesome, guys. Well, again, thank you all. I want to applaud all of you who've hung in with us and stayed through the majority of the program today. Guys, the biggest applause that you can give yourselves is congratulate yourselves for being the small percentage of folks who are willing to invest the time and energy into building and refining your craft. I encourage you to join us for future webinar series. You can find out more information on our website under the Events tab on future events. Otherwise, guys, thanks for joining us today. John and I are going to hang out for just a few more minutes to make sure we do some wrap-up on some other things. But at this point, if you have any additional questions or if you'd like to be able to go ahead and post any of those additional requests for a strategy session, if you'd like to go ahead and take advantage of one of those opportunities to get a no-cost, no-obligation one-on-one coaching experience with one of our team, feel free to go ahead and post the best phone number or email address into the website platform here so that our team can follow up with you and get that scheduled. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you again on future programming of the series. Hopefully you've gotten great value